Good morning students. So this is class 11th physics and today we'll be starting the chapter number 5 which is laws of motion. So this is the lecture number 1 of the chapter. So let us begin with the first topic. So first of all let us study about the term called inertia. So the property of the body due to which it opposes any change in its state of motion or rest is called inertia. Okay. So what happens if our body is in rest, it wants to remain in rest only. Okay. It does not want to change its position or you can say it does not want to change its state of rest or motion, and this property of the body is due to inertia. Okay, so we can have inertia of rest, inertia of motion or inertia of direction. Okay. So you can define inertia of rest by the inability of a body to change by itself its state of rest. Similarly, inertia of motion and inertia of direction. Okay. So you can say inertia of the body is nothing but the inability of the body to change by itself its states of motion or rest. Okay. Okay, so let us take one example of all the inertias. Okay, so first is inertia of rest. Okay, so suppose you are standing in a stationary bus and the driver starts the bus suddenly. What will happen? You will get thrown in the backward direction. Why does that happen? That happens due to the inertia of rest. Because when bus was stopped, you were also at rest. But when the driver starts it suddenly, your body still wants to be at rest. So it experiences a force in backward direction as the bus moves forward direction. Okay. Similarly, the inertia of motion is the ability of a body to change by itself its state of uniform motion. For example, if you are standing in a moving bus and when the driver stops suddenly, again you are thrown in forward direction. And why does that happen? Because when the bus was moving forward, your body was also moving forward, and your body still wants to move forward when the bus stops suddenly. So therefore you feel a jerk in forward direction, and same is the inertia of direction. It is defined as the ability of a body to change by itself its direction of motion. For example, when a bus takes a curve suddenly, the person sitting in it is thrown outwards. Again, that happens due to inertia of direction. So Newton's first law of motion is also called law of inertia, and it is stated as a body continues to be in the state of rest or uniform motion in a straight line until and unless some net external force is applied on it. That is, a body will continue to be carrying its state until and unless some net external force is applied it. And remember, the net external force should be applied. Okay, for example, if 20 Newton is applied in forward direction and 20 Newton is applied in backward direction, net force will be 0. Again, its state of motion will not change. Okay, so there should be some net external force on the body. So this is your law of inertia. Okay, so from Newton's first law, force was defined, and it was said a kind of push or pull that either changes or tries to change the position, direction, etc. of an object is called force. Okay, so it is because see, force, it is not necessary that always by applying force you can change position of something. For example, when you apply force on wall, does it moves? No. Your force tries to change the position of wall, but because it is much heavier than you, it does not move. So force either changes or it tries to change the position of the object. Now as you know, Newton is the SI unit of force, and the dimensional formula of the force is m1L1T minus 2. Okay, so the next topic is linear momentum. So the linear momentum is defined as the product of mass of body and its velocity. And linear momentum is denoted by small p. So you can say p is equals to mv. Okay. Now because velocity is a vector quantity, therefore linear momentum is also a vector quantity, and SI unit of linear momentum will be kilogram meter per second. That is, unit of mass is kilogram and unit of velocity will be meter per second. So this is linear momentum. Okay, so it states that rate of change of momentum is directly proportional to the external force applied on a body and change in momentum takes place in the direction in which the force is applied. That is, if suppose force is applied in x direction, then change in momentum will also take place in x direction. Okay. dp by dt, this is nothing but rate of change of momentum. This is directly proportional to the external force. Okay. And one more thing, the change of momentum will always take in the direction in which the force is applied. Okay. So now from here, F external is directly proportional to dp by dt. If I remove this proportionality constant, F will come to be equal to k dp by dt. Now, as you know, linear momentum is nothing but the product of mass and velocity, that is mv. So put the value of p, that will be k d by dt into mv. Now, if I use the proportionality constant to be 1, and because mass is a constant, so it will come out of differentiation. So F will become m into dv by dt, and dv by dt is nothing but acceleration. So F will come to be ma. Okay. Now from this relation, F is equals to ma, and you know SI unit of force is Newton and CGS unit of Newton force is dyne. Okay, so let us calculate a relation between Newton and dyne. So as you know, 1 Newton will be 1 kilogram and 1 meter per second square. So let us convert them in CGS units. So 1 kilogram will be 1000 gram into 1 meter per second square will be 100 centimeter per second square, because 1 meter is nothing but 100 centimeters. Okay. Now, if you will multiply them, you will get 10 to the power 5 gram centimeter per second square. So this is nothing but CGS unit, which is called dyne. So from here we can say 1 Newton is equals to 10 to the power 5 dyne. We will study about the third law, and then we will state that this second law is real law. That is, from second law you can conclude one law also, first law also, and you can conclude third law also. Okay. So first of all, let us study about the third law. So the third law states, for every action there is equal and opposite reaction provided they act on two different bodies. That is, let us study it with a simple example. When you keep a book on a table, as you know, the book has some weight. So that weight is applied as action on the table. So this book is doing some action on this table. Now, for that action, the table does a reaction on the book. Okay, so book exerts a action force on table, and in turn the table exerts a reaction force on the book. And therefore the book remains stable because those action and reaction are equal and opposite. So you can say FAB is equals to minus of FBA. That is, force applied on A due to B is equals to the magnitude of force applied on B due to A and opposite in direction. So negative sign is showing you the opposite direction, and AB means force on A due to B, and this is force on B due to A. One more example is of our walking. When you walk, our foot does the action on the ground, and in turn of that, the ground exerts a reaction force on the foot. Okay, so that is also a action reaction example. Okay. Okay, so before telling you that second law is a real law, let us study one more term, that is conservation of momentum. So it states that the net change in the momentum of an isolated system is 0. Okay, so first of all, the first thing that arises in your mind is, what is an isolated system? So isolated system is a system which is free from the influence of any external forces. That is, if on any system external force is 0, then that system can be considered as isolated system. Okay, so for such a system, the net change in the momentum is 0. So now let us suppose this is an isolated system in which A and B are two bodies which collides with each other. So when these bodies will collide with each other, there will be some transfer of momentum. So let us say del PA is the change in momentum of A and del PB is the change in momentum of B. Now because both the bodies are in an isolated system, therefore the total change in the momentum will come to be 0. Okay, so the net change or the total change of the momentum of an isolated system is 0. Now let us study the topic that second law is real law of motion. Now you have studied two terms in second law of motion, that is, the net external force is directly proportional to the dp by dt, and F is equals to ma. Okay, so now let us conclude first law from this. Now, if F is equals to ma, and if I am saying net external force is 0, then that means A will also come to be 0 because M is not 0. So this states, so this is nothing but the first law, that is when body is moving uniformly along a straight line and if there is no acceleration in the body, then no external force is required. So this is your first law only. Okay, so now as you know, V is equals to U plus AT. Now if acceleration is 0, that means V will be only equal to U. That means the velocity of the particle will not change, it will remain same. FAB is the force applied on A due to B, and FBA is the force applied on B due to A when they collide with each other. So again there will be change in momentum. So let us consider change in linear momentum of A is, see, F is dP by dt from second law. So change in linear momentum, that is dP, from here dP will come to be F into dt. So we can say change in linear momentum of A will be FAB into dt because FAB is the force which is applied on A. Similarly, change in linear momentum of B will come to be FBA into dt. Again, because this is an isolated system, due to conservation of momentum, the total change should be 0. That is FAB dt plus FBA dt should be 0. Or you can say FAB dt will be equal to minus FBA dt. So from this we can conclude F of AB is equals to minus of FBA. That is, action and reaction are equal and opposite provided there are two bodies. So this is nothing but your third law. So we can say second law is the real law of motion because you can conclude first law as well as third law from the second law. Okay, so the next term is impulse. So impulse is defined as change in momentum. Okay. Now, impulse forces. See, impulse is change in momentum, but if you are talking about impulsive forces are the forces which act on bodies for very short time. Okay, so the forces which act on a body for very short time are called impulsive forces. For example, when we hit a ball through a bat, the force on the ball is for a very short time because as you know the hitting period is very small, so the force on the ball is very short time, is for a very short time, so we can say that is our impulsive force. Okay, so impulsive forces are the forces which act on bodies for a very short time, and impulse is defined as change in momentum. So let us see how impulse is defined as change in momentum. So impulse can be written as the product of force into time. Now, as you know, force is dP by dt and time I am taking a short period of time, that is dt. So this is nothing but dP. So impulse will come to be change in momentum. Okay. So now see, if you have a constant force, then you can directly use force into time, that is F into T. But if you have a variable force, see, for example, see this graph. Now this force is varying with time. So we can say this force is variable force. So the force which depends on time is called variable force, and the force which is independent of time is called constant force. Okay, so if you have a variable force, then how will you calculate the impulse? Now you know the formula of impulse is F dt, but we have here time interval from t1 to t2. So to calculate the total impulse for this, we have to integrate from t1 to t2 because this is not a constant force. So F dt will be integrated from t1 to t2. Now how to get this integration? Basically the area under this graph, that is area under the force time graph, will give you the value of impulse for a variable force. So this integration is equal to area of ABCA, that is ABCA. So this area will nothing but impulse for a variable force. Okay, so now let us look at some applications of the concept of impulse. So the first application is that a cricket player lowers his hand while catching a ball. See, you know all of this. Okay, so as you know, impulse is defined as force into time, which is equal to change in momentum, and F is dP by dt. So when the cricket player lowers his hand, what he is doing, he is increasing the time to catch the ball. So if the time is increased, that means the force on his hands will decrease. So therefore, to get less force on his hands so that he does not get any damage on his hands, he lowers his hands. Okay, so again I am repeating, by increasing time of the catch, the player has to apply a smaller force against the ball in order to stop it. Therefore, the ball in turn also exerts a very small force on the hands, and the hands of the player will not get injured. Okay, so F is directly inversely proportional to the time here. Next application is the vehicles are provided with shockers. See, when the vehicles move over uneven roads, forces are exerted by the road. Okay, now the function of shockers is to increase the time impact. Okay, so when the your uneven road exerts the force on the vehicle will experience some force. So to decrease the force, we want the time period to increase. So this your property of the shockers is just to increase the time period of that impact. So due to which the force is reduced, so the person sitting on the vehicle will feel the less force. So I am discussing these two examples. There are many more examples. For example, when a person falls from a certain height on a cemented floor, or you can take many examples and you can just try to relate what is happening there. Okay. So take some example yourself and try to relate what is happening, how the time impact is increasing and how the force is decreasing. Okay. Okay, so the next is equilibrium of a body. So now, if net external force on a body is zero, then the body can said to be in equilibrium. For example, if you take a point object or any body A, and if there are four forces acting on it, that is F1, F2, F3 and F4. And if I am saying this object A is in equilibrium, so it can only be in equilibrium if the sum of all the forces acting on it is zero. That is, if F1 plus F2 plus F3 plus F4 is 0, if all of them is 0, then the body A is said to be in equilibrium. So, for example, again let us take a book table example. As I told you earlier, the book is applying some action force on the table, and that action force is nothing but the weight of the book. And as you know, the weight of the book is mg, so the weight of the book is acting in downward direction mg. Now this table will also apply some reaction force on this book, and that because the mg is in downward direction, and as you know from Newton's third law, action and reaction are always equal and opposite to each other. So the reaction will be in upward direction. Okay, so from here you can say R will be equal to mg. Now because again on this book there are two forces acting, that is R and mg, and because all the forces are equal, or you can say the sum of both of them is 0. Now you will ask how sum can be 0. See, because these are the vector quantities and they are in opposite direction. So when you will do R plus mg, you have to do R plus minus of mg because they are in opposite direction. So vector addition will be done here. Okay, so you can say because the forces are equal and opposite on this book, so this book is in equilibrium. So from here you can say R is equal to mg. Okay. Okay, so now let us discuss one more example of equilibrium of a body during the motion of a lift. So the topic is apparent weight of a man in a lift. Okay, so now you will ask what is apparent weight. So I'll explain it. Before that, suppose this is a lift. This is a weighing machine kept in the lift and a person is standing on that weighing machine. So again you know there will be some weight of the man which is applied as action, and therefore this weighing machine will apply some reaction in opposite direction. So the reaction offered by this machine is nothing but apparent weight of the man. Okay, so the reaction offered is called apparent weight of the man. Okay, so we will be calculating these apparent weight only. Okay, so now look carefully. If I am saying this lift is at rest, okay, so if this lift is at rest, that means its acceleration is 0. If acceleration is 0, that means net force is also 0 by Newton's second law. F is equals to ma. If A is 0, F will also be 0. Okay, so total force on this man is 0. So now how can you write that? See, r minus mg will be equal to 0 because again they are vectors. So when you will add them, you have to use a negative sign here because they are in opposite directions. So r minus mg will be equal to 0, or you can say r will come to be equal to mg. So that means when the lift is at rest, the apparent weight of the man, that is r, will come equal to be the actual weight of the man. Okay. So now let us take second example of the lift only. If the lift is moving uniformly in upward and downward direction. Now, as you know, in uniform motion, acceleration is 0. So, if acceleration is 0, again as we did in first case, r will come equal to mg. So, either if the lift is at rest or if it is moving uniformly, the apparent weight and the actual weight both will come to be equal. Okay, so now let us take another case in which the lift is going upwards with acceleration a or the lift is going downward with acceleration a. So first of all, let us discuss this one. Okay, so what we'll do, we'll be forming the equations of motion. So you have to remember some rules always. See, if acceleration is 0, you can directly write down f equal to 0 and you can get the equation. But if acceleration is not equal to 0, then what you have to do, you have to take the direction of motion to be positive always. For example, in this case, the direction of motion is upwards. So upward direction will be taken as positive. Okay. Okay, so from Newton's second law, you know F is equals to ma. So we will just write the equation. So now what will be the F? See, on right hand side, ma is there only. So what will be F? Again, as I have told you, the direction of motion will be taken as positive. So that means upward direction will be positive. So R will be kept positive and mg will be kept negative. That is R minus mg is equals to ma. So this is nothing but F is equals to ma. From here, R will come to be mg plus ma, or you can write down R is m into g plus a. Now, as you can clearly see this, that the reaction force, that is apparent weight, is greater than the actual weight in this case when the lift is accelerating upwards. Now, look at this case when the lift is accelerating downwards. Again, because the direction of motion is downward, so in this case, which direction will be taken as positive? Downward direction. Okay, so you can write down mg minus r will be equal to ma. So clearly understand the difference between these. The direction of motion will always be taken as positive, and according to that you will form the equations of motion. Okay, so for here mg minus r will be equal to ma. From here, if you calculate r, that will come to be mg minus ma, or you can write it as r is equals to m into g minus a. Now you can clearly see apparent weight is coming to be less than the actual weight. So if the lift is accelerating upwards, the apparent weight is greater than the actual weight, and if the lift is accelerating downward, the apparent weight is less than the actual weight. Okay, so I am giving you one case as your homework. So the case is if the lift is going downward in free fall, that is, it is going under gravity only. So you have to calculate what will be the apparent weight in that case. Try to do it yourself. In next lecture, we'll see what will happen. Okay, so you can do this question, that is when a lift is going downward in free fall. Okay. Okay, so after going through today's lecture, you can do question number 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 and 7, 8 from your NCERT book and your chapter number 5. Thank you.